Hey guys, I'm Dillon Coates. Welcome to the Cozy Show, and today I'm back home. I'm finally on summer vacation, and that is awesome. And when I say awesome, I mean the good kind of awesome, not that kind of awesome. So, anyway, I was scrolling through Netflix recently, and I came across a show that I'm sure will be completely lighthearted and, just fun to watch. This show's called 13 Reasons Why. I'm gonna sit down, watch it, and then come back and tell you what I think. Okay, well that was not lighthearted at all. Honestly, the show came out a year ago, so I definitely heard a lot about it when it came out. I didn't watch it then, but I watched it now, and so first of all, 13 Reasons Why is a Netflix show based on a 2007 novel by J. Asher. It was originally supposed to be a movie starring Selena Gomez. And I'll tell you, I may have complaints about the show, but I think one very wise move they made here was not having Selena Gomez play the main girl in this. I think that would have been a little distracting considering the subject matter. So, it's a show about this girl named Hannah Baker who has recently committed suicide because of certain things that unfold as the series goes on. Before she committed suicide though, she recorded, I think 13 tapes? Let's go with that. 13 tapes. On each side of each tape, she detailed why she decided to take her own life. And then after she has killed herself, the tapes are delivered to the people who are to blame, supposedly, for her suicide. So it focuses on a kid named Clay Jensen who worked at a movie theater with this girl Hannah and went to high school with her. He gets these tapes, and as the series goes on, we start to see that him and Hannah may have been possibly more than friends. At least, maybe that's what Clay would have wanted. Okay, what I did like about the show, the acting. The acting is very good in the show. Everybody does a really good job. There's no cast member who's like horrible. Some are better than others, I guess, but like none are horrible. Okay, kudos go out to the two main leads. The kid who plays Clay is Dylan Minette. He's really great. The first episode of the series, he's really quiet and, his acting's restrained. I was kind of worried the first episode of this because he didn't seem very expressive. He seemed kind of miscast, but as the series goes on, he's really great. He gets a lot better. And then Catherine Langford plays Hannah Baker, the girl who ends her life. She does a really good job. She's really the narrator of the show because her voiceover goes through the entire thing, which is Clay listening to the tapes, and it's her voice. And it's pretty cool because she's Australian in real life, but she's doing an American accent here. And I would have never known that. But even outside of that, the performance, she has the, sad expression perfect. I mean, that's a pretty simple compliment, but she does really well with it. You really feel the pain of her character, but she still has some happy moments too. So, you meet a bunch of different characters throughout this whole thing. Most of the characters are students from this high school Hannah went to, and are to blame for her suicide. And what I like about each of these characters, there's no one in this who's 100% likable. Like, the show, one of the problems with the show is really that it wants you to like Hannah above every other character, but you can't really do that, which I'll kind of get into in a minute. Every other character, they might be a dickbag. A lot of times, they might have problems, and there definitely is one character who has, like, no redeemable qualities. Yeah, but every other character pretty much, for all the bad stuff they may have done to this girl, all the mistakes they may have made, they're still human. You still get to see a good side of each of these characters. Other things I liked about the show, I liked how in the flashback scenes the color is a lot brighter than in the present day after Hannah has killed herself. I like how a lot of it is very accurate to being a teenager in 2018 or 2017. Like, I graduated high school like 2 years ago, but still, That's no time. A lot of this was my high school, and most teenagers will probably recognize a lot of the, social media interactions that go on. I liked how in the present day scenes, the color is a lot darker, and in the past it's a lot brighter to kind of represent, Hannah's this ray of sunshine, and, she's gone now, so everything is dark and depressing. Yeah. Okay. Problems with the show. Here's a big problem. If I was still in high school, I don't know how I would take this show, because, in high school, a lot of times, and I felt like this too, a lot of times you feel like there's nothing beyond your current situation, and there is, but this show doesn't really make that very clear, and a lot of the choices they make about handling suicide, they're not done very well. So for instance, this girl Hannah, she's portrayed throughout the series like, you do see her getting pissed off a lot of the time, but it's almost always portrayed as like the other students who did all this, and if these students were nicer to her, she maybe would have stayed alive. But like, you can tell in the moments where this girl Hannah does lose her temper. Okay, I'm nowhere near the best person to diagnose something like this, but it seems like she has some mental health issues, but the series doesn't address that, and I think that's a big problem. The series is basically telling teenagers, if you're not nice to someone every second of the day, if you don't watch someone every second of the day, you don't say everything you ever wanted to say to that person at one specific moment, that person could be dead tomorrow and it will be your fault. That's not a good message. That's not a good message for kids. I don't even know what to say about this. And it's not just students who are kind of poorly portrayed a lot. There's one scene in the last episode, this has been talked about a lot, but I'm gonna say it anyway. There's this character named Mr. Porter, who's a school guidance counselor. Hannah goes to him in the last episode where she's absolutely at her breaking point. She's been slut-shamed, she's been made fun of. In the episode before this, she actually does get raped by a guy who's like one of the most popular guys in school. So she goes to Mr. Porter, looking for help. And this girl, she's clearly like at her breaking point, you can tell. And she actually says to him, I want life to stop. Right there. He should have been like, okay, let's stop right there and get you some help. But no, instead he starts grilling her for information about what happened. One thing he actually says is that he can't do anything about this rape that has happened to her unless he gets the name of the person. And I read an interview with a counselor who watched the show after, and he was like, no, that's not how it works. We can still do something about a rape even if we don't know the name of the person who is guilty of it. So that's not done well, and that's a huge issue with this show. A lot of teenagers may watch this show and they'll think, okay, I don't want to go to my school guidance counselor now because like they're not going to help at all. They're just going to make it worse. I better just, make some horrible decision instead. But that's not the case a lot of time. I know everybody's only human. They can only do so much. I'm sure the guy had the best intentions, but they really made a pretty critical mistake when dealing with this major issue. Like, watching the show, I was definitely interested in what would happen in this, but like, it wasn't a fun... Okay, I wasn't really expecting a fun show watching this. That beginning part I did here was kind of a joke. I knew what I was getting into. But, I don't know, no one's really likable too much. The performances are good, I guess. Okay, here's the other thing. It goes on a bit too long. Way too long, in fact. I feel like this maybe should have been a 2-hour movie. I know a TV series gives you more time for character development and all that stuff, and so some of that was interesting, but I don't know, I feel like a lot of these characters were pretty interchangeable. Like, there's 3 or 4 guys who Hannah has a possible thing with, and then it kind of blows up. there's two girls who more or less have the same story. Hannah's friends with them, and then something happens, they're not friends anymore. So I feel like you could have maybe narrowed down the characters in this a little bit and made it a little more coherent. Too many characters. Like, you're watching this, you see a character you haven't seen in a while, and you're like, oh yeah, you. What did you do again? Yeah. But this girl, Hannah, she is pretty... I wrote some notes about the show earlier, actually, while I was watching it. I said that this is kind of earlier on as I'm watching it. The only really likable character was Hannah, and she kills herself. So again, what message is that sending to impressionable teenagers? This has been controversial, I know. I'm not the first person talking about this, but still, I'm glad I wasn't in high school when this came out. I'll say that. If I were in high school watching this show, like, watching it for me put me through a bit of emotional stress. 13 episodes, you're watching the show, constantly dealing with someone's suicide. That's a real issue, I get it, but like, it does take a lot out of you to watch this. And I'm not even in high school. If I were in high school and had to actually live through this every day, I'm not saying every high school has suicide issues or rape issues or anything. I know they do, but not everyone. But if I had to live through high school life every day and watch this show at the same time, I don't know how I'd be able to get through it. I don't know how I would react to a show like this. Okay, I do know how I react, but I wouldn't react well, and I think it would really hurt my mood a lot. Bottom line, here's the issue with this show. A lot of people have wondered, you know, what would the world be like if I was suddenly gone? Would people miss me? Would people remember me? And this show is saying, yeah, if you know, commit suicide, everybody will suddenly love you and wanna know what you were going through, be really disturbed by the fact that they may have contributed to your suicide. But, okay, here's the issue with that, and I don't know why this is so hard for people to understand sometimes, but like, you might be way more popular after it happens, but you won't be alive to see it. You'll never be able to see people remembering you, and once you make that decision, you can never come back from it. So this show giving that idea of, you know, when you make a decision like this, maybe the guy you kind of liked will realize his mistake and start liking you. That's not a good message to anybody, particularly teenagers in high school. And this show really kind of messed up by giving that idea to teenagers. And what makes it a lot harder is a lot of it is so accurate to real life. Like, even from the first episode, there's a memorial for Anna in the hallway. This is soon after she's committed suicide. And two girls stand in front of it and they take a selfie in front of the memorial and they say, what are you gonna post? And they're like, oh, hashtag never forget. I was like, okay, that is, you know, you hope no one really would take a selfie in front of a memorial for something like that, but at the same time, that does happen a lot of the time in real life. You know, a death happens and suddenly everybody's posting about it, even though they knew nothing about this before this event happened. Okay, so let's talk about the biggest asshole on the show. This character's name is Bryce. This guy. I said a while back that every character is more or less has some good quality. No, this guy, this guy has none. This guy, no, he has none. He's like the fire starter actually in making Hannah wanna make this awful decision, because Hannah decides to go on a date with another athletic guy who's kind of more of a human, definitely, as the series goes on at least. So she goes on a date with him. This guy starts spreading a rumor about what they may have done that night, which is not true, but it's a pretty sexual rumor about what they may have done. So this guy Bryce, he looked through this other guy's phone, sees a picture he took of Hannah and her, you can see her underwear in the picture because she's going down a slide. He sent it to the entire school. That's like the least worst thing this guy Bryce does. Later on in the series, Hannah witnesses him raping another girl. And then the final thing he does, which is like the second to last decision that makes Hannah wanna take her life is he rapes Hannah. That scene where he rapes Hannah, very tough to watch, but also very well done. The camera stays on Hannah's face the entire time, so you don't actually see the rape happening, you just see the impact it has on her. Very powerful. Like, at first she's kind of fighting back, but then her hands like go limp and you can see the light go out of her, and it's just really tough to watch. And here's the sad thing about this show. As misguided as a lot of it is, there's a 30-minute bonus featurette after you finish the show on Netflix, and I watched that. You can tell these people did have good intentions making this, but a lot of it was not executed the best. You know, you get people in that featurette I'm talking about how suicide affects people and how it's never the right option, but also in that featurette they're talking about the scene with the guidance counselor where Hannah goes to him, and they're kind of putting the blame more on Hannah than the guidance counselor, which that's not. This was really on the guidance counselor for making this mistake. Like, of course, Hannah could have spoken a little more, but aren't guidance counselors like trained to recognize when someone's, you know, clearly not doing well? Like, I'm not a counselor at all, and I could tell there was something really messed up about her, even if I hadn't, you know, watched the past 11 episodes, literally seeing that. But yeah, and the creators of the show obviously thought that it was just Hannah who made the mistake. It wasn't. To kind of sum up, there were things about this show I liked, there were things I didn't like. The transitions between the past when Hannah's alive and the present when she's not, they were pretty clever. The transitions in this are pretty clever. You can kind of see them coming after a while, but they're still it's pretty creative how they do them. And you know, as I said, the changing color scheme between bright colors and dark, that's cool. Again, the acting's really good, the performances are great. I'm just not really sure who the show is meant for, because I said maybe high schoolers shouldn't watch this, but it's a message that they need to hear, you know, to be nicer to everybody, but it's not done the best. It kind of takes a lot of things to an extreme. I don't know who this is meant for. I'm glad I watched it. I probably wouldn't watch it again, but you know, it's decent. It's decent for what it is. Performances are good. A lot of the choices made, they're all good. A lot of them are bad. But I think it's a good show for some teenagers. If you're feeling suicidal, maybe don't put this on. Definitely don't put this on. But it's interesting. It is interesting to watch. It's not a masterpiece by any means, but I'm glad I saw it. Okay. I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10. Like, performances are great, a lot of the stuff done is pretty cool. Again, they make some pretty serious flaws in dealing with this subject matter, and I think they could have done a lot better. This is something that needs to be talked about. Kudos to this show for making an attempt at talking about this kind of thing, but a lot of it isn't done the best. But hey, kudos for giving Hannah the same look as a certain other high school teenager from a TV show. Here's what I really don't get about this. This will be kind of my last thing to talk about. Here's what I really don't get. There's apparently a second season of this coming out pretty soon. It's supposed to be 2018, so must be soon. But like, I don't get what they have left to do. This book ends where this first season ends, so I guess they're just making stuff up at this point. But the first season kind of ends. It's pretty self-contained. Like, they're all, I guess, some plot elements they could draw on, but like not much to do with Hannah because she's dead, obviously, and they've gone through all the tapes at this point. So, and the plots what they have, they're pretty weak, so I think any positive feedback this show may have had in this first season, they might really shoot themselves in the foot in this upcoming second season. But hey, we'll see what happens. Who knows? Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.